Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the United States of America staged one of the most incredible and dramatic and powerful airstrikes that's ever been done here in the United States. Let me tell you a little bit about it. The United States Air Force, the Navy, and frankly, everybody else involved, this was a special unified mission. And it took a great deal of planning, a great deal of execution. But the reason we did this was pretty simple. The Iranians have been enriching uranium. Now, uranium can be used for nuclear power, and that's so what they said, well, that's what we're using it for. But if you enrich it too far, then it becomes used for bombs, missiles, atomic weapons, if you will. And that's exactly what they were doing in their underground facility in the northern part of their country. It was under a mountain, buried under hundreds and hundreds of feet of rock, and thought to be impenetrable. Nobody could touch it. And they had all their centrifuges down there enriching the uranium. Well, Israel was obviously concerned about this because they knew the goal of Iran was to get a nuclear bomb and to drop it on Israel. They've said that more than once because Iran calls Israel the Satan, and then they call the United States the Great Satan. And the last thing they wanted to see was an atomic bomb dropped on Tel Aviv, which essentially could destroy the entire country. I was very specific about this and did their best to take out all the air defense equipment, all the aircraft, all the radar sites, everything they could take out and make the skies of Iran defenseless for them, the Iranians, to be able to go after anything that came up in the air. Now, that was the plan. So you had the folks in Israel cleared everything in Iran, cleared the ground, cleared the radar, and said, okay, America, we've done what we told you we would do. Israel gave the plans, the schematics for that underground facility to the United States so they could see what was going on, see how it was built, see where it was built, and looking at the mountain and analyze the whole thing to say, where can we go in this thing? Where can we penetrate this thing? You see, the problem was this. The concern the United States has was Israel was talking about taking an atomic weapon and dropping it on that mountain to try to destroy those centrifuges because they didn't want Iran making a nuclear bomb to drop on them. Well, the idea of going nuclear in this age would upset the entire rest of the world, all the other countries. They'd suddenly be wanting to get weapons themselves. It was a bad plan. So the United States was said, well, we got to step in because we've got the only one thing that could destroy the inside of that mountain. And that was a GBU. And we had the biggest of the big. The problem was we're the only country in the world that has this. It's the GBU 57, weighs 30,000 pounds. It's got what amounts to is a massive amount of explosive debris in it and a huge iron case, specialized iron case. And when it gets flying, it makes a big hole. And I mean a big hole. So how do you do it? Well, what they did was the White House said, okay, well, we're gonna start moving some pieces around, some pieces of the chess game. And what they did was they went from Whiteman Air Force Base in the middle of Missouri and started flying some B-2s to the west. That's right, flying to the west. Told the media, everybody knew what was going on. They were taking pictures, everything else. They flew the B-2s to Guam, Anderson Air Force Base. They've got the runways, they've got the equipment. They're a great staging area. And they also sent B-52s to Diego Garcia. It's an island out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. B-52s do one thing, and their job is to blow up things and kill a whole lot of people because they have the kind of weaponry that does that. So America's sitting there, the media's sitting there going, oh, we went and sent things over the west. We're staging in Guam. And they said, well, the president's going to wait a couple of weeks, think about what he's going to do, how he's going to tell Iran what to do. Lo and behold, that was a ruse. That was a game. That was a head fake. Because what happened was, then they launched seven of the B-2s, took off from Whiteman, and were suddenly joined by other aircraft. Well, those other aircraft were able to pick up the transponder codes from those B-2s because everybody's got to have a transponder code, but these planes took it over. Because people out there, there's certain software that you can get called Flight Tracker and those kind of things, where anybody out there can watch any particular airplane flying anywhere in the world and tell you what that airplane is, where it's going, what it's doing. It's software. It exists. You see it all the time. But if another airplane comes up and uses the designated IFF code, takes over that, that means suddenly the B-2s were flying blind, because the B-2 has a radar return of a sparrow. That means virtually nothing. Radar can't see it. The only way they could see it was with the identification code on their IFF system. But since other planes took it over, well, people on the ground assumed the other plane was whatever it was. It could have been a tanker. It could have been anything, any particular airplane that wouldn't arouse anything. So the 7 B-2s flew across the pond. Across the pond, there were KC-135R models and KC-46s stationed all across the pond to they were gas stations. Call it what they will. You had a Shell station every few hundred miles. Those 7 B-2s were able to sit there, fill up on gas all the way across the pond. Inside of the bomb bays of each of those was 2, count them 2, 57s, GBU 57s, 30,000 pounds each. Each had 2 of them. So they're flying, they fly over to Europe, go into Europe, and then suddenly they are joined by an entire cadre of other Air Force planes. The entire package was 125 airplanes. You had F-15s, you had F-22 Raptors, F-35s, you had F-15s, you had F-16s. You had all kinds of different aircraft guiding them in, making sure the lane was clear. They were clearing the lane. Or as they say, they were plowing the road. And anything that cropped up, those planes could take care of it. Jamming, you name it, they were doing it. So here's you got these 7 airplanes flying, and they got 125 other airplanes flying around it as a package, taking them in. And they went in with a midnight hammer. And they knew exactly where they wanted to drop those, because those were guided bombs, knew exactly where to go, knew exactly where to hit, what vents to go to. Because you see, those underground things have vents, oxygen vents, air vents. You know where to hit. And they dropped the bombs. They drop one, make a big hole, drop the second one, goes into makes an even bigger hole and goes a lot deeper. So 14 bombs were dropped on that particular complex to take it out. But the Navy was involved too. They had submarines in the ocean and launched, I believe, 20 or 21 cruise-guided missiles from submarines. Took out the southern nuclear stuff in the country of Iran. There were plants down to the south. 3 plants they're working with. The big one was the one in the north in the mountain. That one they had to take out. And that took a 125 plane package. But now we have sea-launched cruise missiles coming in, hitting the southern plants, and they did. All of this was done with no communication whatsoever. It was silent. So nobody could hear what was going on. Satellites were working. Everything was working, but there was one group, one particular airplane, E-4, 747, was flying. The E-4 is the command post, the command facility. That E-4 has 65 different antennas. And each of those antennas talks to someone, something different. You want to talk to a submarine under the ocean? E-4 can do it. You want to talk directly to the aircraft commander of one of the aircraft? The E-4 can do it. You want to talk to the president of the United States? You can do it. You want to talk to anyone, that aircraft and that crew, that battle staff, they can talk to anybody at any time, anywhere. They were the maestro of the orchestra. They were directing everybody to go, which way to go, what to go, where to go, and everybody knew what they were doing. They were executing a plan. And the satellites overhead were watching everything, seeing how things were going and where things were going. That strike didn't last long, but it was devastating. The planes went in, hit their targets, and left. We lost no one, we lost nothing. This is for the first time they flew 37 hours. That's the longest mission those B-2s have ever flown. 37 hours, back and forth, two-man crew. Ask yourself how difficult that was. But they did it unscathed. Everybody came back and everything was safe. Now, the question is going to be, what's going to be the reaction of Iran? Time will tell. But right now, the thing we're dealing with in America is the Congress, certain members of Congress saying, how dare the president do that? You have to come to Congress asked to do that. If you went to Congress and told them what you were going to do, the Congress would leak every item of that entire package to the news media. You know it, I know it, and it's been proven time and time again. The Congress is a leaking sieve. This particular mission was top secret, eyes only clearance. Very compartmentalized, and very few people knew what was going on, and those that did said nothing. That's why it was done, complete silence. No one said a word, and until it was done, no one knew what had happened. That's how it works, folks. This is a one-off deal. It's not something we're putting boots on the ground going to war. We had to do it because Israel said, we don't have the capability to do what we want to do, because they can only use one thing. They got nukes. We don't want that to happen. We had the weapons to take out that facility, and we used them. Now we got to wait and see what Iran does. And hopefully the people of Iran, who are not exactly supporting of the Ayatollah, who's been in power since 1979. People in Iran would like to see those people go. They want to go back to being a regular country and be like the rest of the world, because that's what they want. But the powers that be, they've got to be taken out and said, enough's enough, because you've created enough havoc in your world and you're not going to destroy anybody else. That's the story, folks. Now you know what happened, and let's see the repercussions that come out. But right now, the word is US 1, Iran 0. And that should be the final score.